Hello, Bible readers. It is Friday, June 4th. We're reading from Daniel 3 to 5 and finishing up the John letters. We're on 3rd John. Yesterday, I spoke to the context of Daniel, but I didn't say much of anything about chapter 1 or 2. And each chapter, I'm remembering now as I read Daniel again, is rich in significance and in meaning. So it starts out, chapter 1, sharing an essential piece of how we'll need to read and understand Daniel. Jerusalem has been conquered. The holy objects of the temple are being kept like trophies by a rival king, Nebuchadnezzar. Reminders of this status, that the people of Israel are in exile, that's where we're at in the history of Israel and its people. That's going to run through these 12 chapters almost like a political litany. You know, like each political party just has sayings or does things that remind their constituency, we're with you. And this is our context. That's going to happen throughout the book of Daniel. Don't forget, these characters are in exile, responding against an oppressive, Babylonian imperial force, colonial force. In chapter 1, we can't appreciate it fully without understanding the power that comes with food. That was just understood in these days. Food security is known to the very privileged, the very wealthy. We, of course, got a taste for that back in Genesis when, Joseph was put in charge of Egypt's food, and Egypt has power because they have food. In Daniel 1, we see again that food is a symbol, this time for privilege, wealth, and the overindulgence of this rival nation. In chapter 2, Daniel speaks truth to power, interpreting this dream that brings bad news to Nebuchadnezzar. By being willing to offer that bad news to him, Daniel shows his courage. In chapter 3, we see the struggle of, does Israel have power in the face of colonialism? What place does Israel have when they're just at the mercy of these colonial overlords? As Babylon takes over and raises statues and pats itself on the back for the power they have, does Israel still matter in that context? So really, sovereignty is the issue of Daniel chapter 3. Chapter 4, there may be some historical facts that are being played out here. I listened to a podcast recently about the ancient Near East and the power of Assyria and then the power of Babylon and even Egypt. And one of the characters they spoke to was Nebuchadnezzar. And some of what they know, and by they I mean like historians, not religious historians, but like just historians, one of the sources that they'll use to kind of draw on who was this Nebuchadnezzar character is the book of Daniel, because Daniel in chapter 4 lifts Nebuchadnezzar up as kind of a crazy person. And so maybe that touches on something factual. And then in chapter 5, another decadent banquet, we see an attack on the culture and the identity of a nation, not just a military campaign against Israel, but actually a campaign against their very identity. Sacred objects and places of conquered people, they still remain sacred. And so that's kind of the question that's being thought about here in Daniel 5. Quick note on 3rd John. The elder is at it again, this time writing to the beloved Gaius. The message of this letter is simple: imitate good, not evil. Sometimes you just need to keep it simple, right? I am one with my God. My God is with us, all of us, at all times and in all places.